So welcome to the first session of today. We're talking about catering in high-risk areas. This panel discussion focuses on catering setups in the healthcare industry. As it is, these areas are high risk, and add to that the pandemic that the world is grappling with, and it becomes a different ballgame altogether. So today, our experts discuss the challenges and solutions around this. Before we begin, let me introduce the panel for today. We have with us Arsalan Zai, food safety, quality assurance, and quality control professional. Arsalan has 13 plus years of experience in quality assurance, quality control, food safety, microbiology, and R&D. He is armed with an in-depth knowledge of implementing training and auditing various food safety and quality management systems, and has attended several professional training courses. We also have with us Mr. Muhammad Altaf, the Principal Food Inspection Specialist at Ras Al Khaimah Municipality. Mr. Altaf has 20 years of experience in the food industry and the food control authorities of the UAE. He currently works at the Ras Al Khaimah Municipality to establish and implement food control management systems and procedures. Amongst other achievements, he has received accolades from Dubai Municipality, Abu Dhabi Food Control Authority, and Ras Al Khaimah Municipality, including the Government Excellence Award in the Outstanding Employee category from the ruler of Ras Al Khaimah in 2017. We also have with us Nina De Costa, the consulting manager at Diversey, MENA. She is a passionate life protection ambassador and is currently responsible for the design and execution of Diversey's technical services across the MENA region. Nina, with her team of professionals, uses various platforms to mentor businesses and individuals via training, auditing, and consulting. Richard Green, our next panelist is Chef Richard Green. He's a corporate executive chef at ADNH Compass Middle East. Chef Richard has spent over 30 years in different kitchen environments. With his unrivaled experience and thorough understanding of how to create a right dynamic in any type of kitchen, he has pioneered the art of catering that can be applied anytime and anywhere. He plays a pivotal role in ensuring smooth functioning of site kitchens operated by ADNH Compass that are serving its extensive portfolio of healthcare clients. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And a very good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll start with a very basic question. Let's start with the importance of catering in a hospital. Why is it important? Can we start with you, Chef Richard?
Sure. Well, the two fundamental basics of or core services in a hospital, one is the treatment and the care, and the other one is the food and the service. Now, which one of those cores are going to make you smile? It's not going to be the treatment. So it's very important that from a catering aspect, that the guests or anyone within a hospital environment, might be someone visiting a patient in hospital, has the right service and the right food, and the food needs to be of a very high level. I remember 30 years ago, and it was jelly and custard with a little bit of whatever was given to you on the tray. The dynamics of that have changed dramatically. One thing that we're working on within our group is delivering in a 5-star room service concept, which is heat on demand. So rather than chicken or beef, you have a menu that has 18 to 20 different a la carte items that you can order 24 hours a day. It's not just during the meal delivery time, and it gives that more personalised touch to the actual food and the service side of it. And it gives someone going into hospital a little bit more, well, you know, I'm not just going there for the treatment, I'm actually going there for the food, and it changes that whole, how they feel about their experience in the hospital, because, you know, 30 years ago, going to a hospital wasn't a very nice thing to do. I like to think these days going to the hospitals, and especially the ones we cater to, is something that people actually look forward to because of the food and the service.
Yeah, a hospital food is pretty notorious for being a hospital food. So I think you guys are definitely changing that. Mr. Mohammed, could you add to this? Can you tell us from the government perspective, why is catering important in hospitals?
Actually, the purpose of hospital catering is definitely to provide dietary foods to the patient and as well as to the visitor or staff of the hospitals. So there are basically two groups of customers or consumers of the food at hospitals. So accordingly, the hospital managements are organizing the food Sometimes the food supplies to the hospital are of different types, cooks and serve, cooks and chill and then serve, cook and then freeze and then serve, or assemble the food of as per the requirements. Now in Ras Al Khaimah, or as per my experience in UAE, because I worked in 3 authorities, usually the food is supplied by these supplier to the hospitals, and one of the eminent supplier is sitting with us to the hospitals, and so this food, of course, is delivered to the customer as per their demand. And the things in these types of foods are having some pros and cons. For example, when the facility is available on spot, means they are cooking and supplying to the customer, they can meet the customer demand as per their requirement and or as per physician or dietitian's requirements. But if it is supplied from outside, sometime it is palatable to the customer or not. It is not. Sometimes they don't like or dislike it, which may affect their health requirements for on daily basis. Because when they are supplying food from outside, you know, it requires transportation, and supplying food 5 times a day is a big task, is a big challenge to us. So, but overall, I believe so far, because when I took data from our inspection team, we never find any outbreak in case in Ras Al Khaimah, and we have very good control. Initially, we were doing inspection for the hospitals, but due to the COVID, the visiting to the hospitals has been limited by the ministry. So, but in general, they already have their own control units there. And with regards to the regulatory requirements, we have very good standard in place from the at the UAE level, or at the Ras Al Khaimah municipality level, or other Emirates local level, which are dedicated to the catering industry, which we'll discuss as the session will go on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nina, can you add to this in your experience as a consulting manager at Diversey? What have you seen in terms of catering in hospitals?
I think, you know, apart from what my colleagues have shared, apart from the fact that, you know, it is not a core business, but it's a very, very important supporting element, because when someone comes to the hospital, they don't expect to dine outside. So it's very important to give them a favorable environment and also safe food. We are catering to a society which is no longer global, but which has international taste nowadays. And the way the hospitals are moving, they are trying to cater to a dining experience which is in-house, which is international. They want to feel that the food is no longer belonging to the hospital, but they want to have a better feel to it. And there is an important factor that we need to keep in mind, that the food that we are serving is not just to an ordinary population, but it is something called as a high-risk population. And these people have a compromised immune system, which means their risk of suffering from a food poisoning is very high. And so when we look at the hospitals, it's important that they select the caterers very carefully, because we're looking at ethnic requirements, we're looking at special requirements, we're looking at calorie control, we're looking at dietary requirements such as, you know, excessive protein or fiber, renal diets. We're looking at, you know, addition of certain nutrients in the food. We're looking at Ryle's tube feed, the food that is fed through the pipe. So all these are important considerations when we're looking at catering in a hospital. Apart from the hygiene, of course, yeah.
Thank you. Arsalan, your comments?
Yeah, so I want to start with one case study. I was just reading it yesterday. 3 patients in UK died with a listeria contaminated sandwich from a caterer. So these cases, and this is not the first case or not a small amount of cases like this. I was just collecting some statistics. 10% cases of hospital acquired diseases happen from catering, approximately. And it's a big number. So what we are saying is out of 100, 10 people have a chance of getting an infection from the catering food which is provided in the hospital. Now, those people can be part of risk group, as Nina pointed out, because all the patients who are there, or elderly people or young kids, are part of risk group. So that's a big area to focus on. And of course, there could be visitors, there could be family members which will be having the same food from the cafeteria. So that's a challenge as well. And food is such a business that it needs trust between the producer and the consumer. And once the trust is gone, then it's very hard to bring it back. I always compare food with pharmaceutical industry. So if there's a medicine which we are taking and we hope to get better from the medicine, we don't expect a reaction to come out of it. Although there is a big label saying there is reactions and all sorts of things, but we have a mindset that yes, this medicine is going to cure me. Same is the mindset with food for people, that they are eating it to have a healthy lifestyle, to have nutrition, and they don't expect to get sick from it. And if the outcome is adverse, then the trust is gone. And as a result, people, of course, will not like the idea of coming to the catering area in the hospitals, and it affects the business as well as it affects the trust of that particular hospital as well. So if I narrow it down to 5 major points, which our business should focus on. Number one is the most basic thing, which also Nina pointed out, is the risk groups. So we need to go to the basics with regards to risk group. We need to manage the infection with regards to, or we need to manage the process considering risk groups. Because if we manage them, then automatically everybody has safe food. Then the infection rate, the cross-contamination between clean and dirty areas has to minimize. Our hospital catering areas needs to become clean areas. They cannot be any more dirty areas. If they become clean areas, or we say as high care areas, then automatically the infection rate will go down. So that's another point. Then allergen management, as I mentioned in our previous discussion as well, allergen management is a huge thing nowadays. A lot of people have allergy. I myself have allergy from shellfish. So proper allergen management is very important. And of course, nutritious, healthy food. A lot of people now are health conscious. They want food. They need to know the calorie count in their food. They need to know the protein and carbs which they are taking in, and fats. So this work has to happen also, that our hospital food should have proper labeling. As a result, the people can understand at what they are consuming, and it will help in allergen management as well. So for me, it's a huge area. A lot of work has happened in past decades on manufacturing industry in mass production. If you look at mass production like ketchups and mayo, a lot of huge work has happened, a lot of automation has happened. But similar has to now come towards the catering side as well. Some big players in the market are doing it. A lot of good companies are there which are having huge automated or semi-automated facilities. But now it has to come to a smaller scale as well. And I think in this regards, the government entities like Mr. Mohammed is here, they have to play a role as well to make business suitable for small catering companies so that they can invest on automation. That's the key to success, because by hand, if you go hand by hand, it will increase the chance of cross-contamination, it will increase the chance of cross-infection. So many things are there. But to control the machines is easy, so that's my take out of it.
Thank you so much, Arsalan. That actually brings me to my next question.
Can I just add something to that? I just want to thank Arsalan. You've just made my day. I'm a very happy chef. If 10% is normal for food-related illness, we do 3.2 million meals a week in the UAE, and we have 0%. So thank you.
That's excellent.
That's really good. So actually what Arsalan ended his point with is what brings me to my next question. It's about what is the ingredient, pun intended, for a good catering setup. What kind of components do we need in a good catering setup, whether you're talking about a large scale hospital or you're talking about a smaller healthcare center or facility? Let's go around the same way. Chef Richard, if you could start with what you've seen in your experience.
Look, I believe a good support network is very important. You have the on-site team, but there's another team behind that that supports that team. I believe this is vital. I mean, even if you're talking about smaller sites or larger sites, it can be anything from having your own central production units to having, like we do in our company, we have regional chefs and sector chefs who go in on site and support the team there. This is, the support's incredibly vital, because when you get something like COVID, which happened just nearly 2 years ago, to be able to turn that around in a very quick time without that support network is near on impossible. It also, you know, we were mobilising field hospitals for 2,000 beds and doing that within 24 hours. You can't do that without the right support network. And the support network is not just the chefs, it's the HSC officers, it's the management, it's, you know, and the training staff. I mean, to have that support network to train the actual staff on site before they go on site. One of the biggest risks in food delivery, especially within a high risk area like a hospital, is putting untrained individuals into that area, because if they don't have the right knowledge, and we've mentioned, I think it was Arsalan who mentioned about the food allergens, and I'll go on about that a little bit later in this conversation, but making sure that the training support network is there prior to them getting in, that they have the right induction process, the right onboarding process, that they understand the difference between serving food in a hospital rather than a restaurant or in a hotel. So the support network is fundamental. So by selecting a catering company or looking at catering companies, that would be one thing definitely that I would look at, and I'm sure a lot of our clients that we have look at as well. Having proof of delivery as well. So looking at what you've done in your history, your past, and how well you've delivered that is very important, and something that our clients look at. It's also important as well to be able to show that you can look after smaller sites rather than just big sites. We often get painted as the brush as the big monster in the UAE because of the size we are. But we operate very, very small hospitals as well, and making sure that the same care is given, whether it's a 100-bed hospital or a 500-bed hospital, and making sure that the culture that the staff have on site is the same throughout, that it doesn't change or doesn't vary, that the HSC processes are all the same, that the delivery processes are all the same. So for me, one of the biggest things that I think is important is the support network behind the actual team on site.
Thank you, Chef. Mr. Mohammed, can you tell us about what are the components required to set up a catering facility in hospitals, and also a little about the kind of legislations and general protocols that the government has, like these catering companies have to adhere to when they set up a catering section?
Right. For the registration or for the establishment of a catering industry, we have law 2009. We have our own FCS requirement for the food industry, which describe all the basic requirement for the food industries in general. But if somebody wants to establish a catering industry in Ras Al Khaimah, first of all, they have to contact with the Department of Economics Development to get lessons from there. They will refer them to the food control section, where the business operator has to register with us as a business partner. As a establishment business partner, we have two categories of business partner registration: individual as well as establishment. So once he will establish, then he can apply online for the site visit, location visit of the proposed premises. After getting that satisfactory approval, we are going to prove its layout. There is a mechanism requirements for each establishment, including catering. So after getting layout approval, the business operator will establish the facility, and then we will have a final inspection of the facility. And if it will satisfactory, then we will recommend them NOC, which he will get lessons from the economics department. Now, I just want to highlight very important aspect here. We have business partner of two types. One, those who are supplying food to the Ras Al Khaimah, and those and the other who are residing in Ras Al Khaimah. So for both types of suppliers or the producer or supplier of the food products to the catering industry or to the hospital industry, they have to register with us as a business partner. This is one of the way to prove that we have an approved registration system for the supplier of the food items in Ras Al Khaimah. Now, once we will approve them, then there is a regular surveillance for the analysis of the food product. Number one. Number two, there is a regular inspection of the food premises, which is around 3 to 4 inspections per year, routine inspections. And then if it will, the inspection officers are visiting the facility on regular basis to make sure that the product is safe. And we are collecting the sample through our sampling unit on regular basis to ensure the food supply by the catering or food industry or to the catering industry is safe for human consumption. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed. Nina, we come to you. What are your thoughts on this in terms of the right components required for a catering setup?
Right. I think apart from what my colleagues have said, it starts with the business approach, which is very important. And, when we talk about SWOT, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, running a catering is one part, but understanding what you are engaging in with the hospital is another part. It's important to know what you can do and what you cannot do, as much as it is important for a hospital to understand the capabilities and the limitations of the caterer that they are engaging with. So that assessment is very important. In fact, most of the food assembly actually goes on with the site, that's the hospital. It's important to have a site assessment when you engage in the business before you sign off the contractual agreement. It's pointless to hit a supplier after you have engaged in a business deal. We need to look at the people. This is one of the most important factors apart from the products, the processes, the raw materials, the technology, the cleaning that you have. If people are not under control, your operation will never be successful. This is exactly what Chef Richard has also emphasized. In fact, we need to look at the kind of people that we're getting in. We expect people to think like us. If you see in the cleaning sector, the people that we have are very simple, down-to-earth people. And cleaning is a science-based topic. So that means they may not have the competence to understand the requirements that are essential to have a successful business, a safe business. And we expect people to think like us. So it's important that we upgrade competencies. It's important that we assess competencies. And it's important that we hire people based on the risk nature of the operations. Once we have that, we will be able to get knowledge into action. And that is what we call as application. So applications, when we select, like, for example, whether it be cleaning or food production, it's always based on the kind of people that we have. So automated systems are better than manual systems. They rule out mistakes automatically. It's also important when we look at caterer to see how they understand processes, especially when it comes to the needs of the hospital, the kind of menus that you are looking at, etc. And of course, from a management perspective, the leadership, the budgets that they have, the resources that they have, what they are willing to put into making their operation safe, which bring personality and character to the business. At the end of the day, it is not money, it is life protection.
Thank you, Nina. Very, very well said. Arsalan, your comments?
Yeah, so building upon what Richard and Nina said, there are 5 types of resources for a business. We call them as 5 M's. Men, or not being gender biased, people, okay, machine, material, money, and method. Now, this looks very simple and very basic for people or for businesses nowadays. But if you go down to the basics, this is the core of any business. You need to have competent people, as Nina and Richard already pointed out. So I'm not going to explore that further more, but you need to have automation, as we discussed before, as much as possible. Take example of a cooking vessel. There are multiple methods of cooking. We do cooking at home also, and we do cooking in catering as well, and we do cooking in manufacturing sector as well. The more automation you have, the less chance of undercooked food you have. If the vessel is automatically built in with a calibrated system to recognize that the temperature desired for that particular product has reached properly, then we eliminate the error of human, which can happen due to lack of training, or due to negligence, due to incompetence, or even due to simply just at that time the person was not focused enough. That's a nature thing. Nowadays, if you look at the surrounding which we are having with COVID and so many things happening, people have so much things on their mind. They are preoccupied with the health of their families, with their loved ones. They are unable to meet people for months and months, or maybe years in some cases. They cannot go to their home countries. So a lot of things are going on, and to just assume that a person who is trained will always be paying attention to the job, it's not reasonable. This assumption is not correct. So we need to make sure that the people are comfortable and they have resources like machines to help them around. Then coming to the material, correct material, proper sourcing of the supplier. A lot of time people really misunderstand this concept. But one of my ex-managers used to say, if we receive something which is already out of order or already contaminated, then we cannot convert it into a good product. It's impossible. So whatever you receive, that's the thing you will dish out. And I was working for a company which was a partner with Compass, ADNH Compass. I didn't get the chance to meet Richard before today, but I've heard about him. So we as a supplier of Compass, we were in a high scrutiny from them all the time to make sure that we have good control over our suppliers, so good control over our procedures and methods and people, so that we give out consistently good food. Then of course the resources. You cannot have a operations supplying to a 200 bed hospital and you have a small shop. It's not possible. It cannot work like that. One time in my one of my previous jobs, we received a query from a supplier that they want to supply to a big company which has 200 outlets. I went for an audit, and it was a small shop, maybe like a restaurant. So my natural question to them was that, what is your plan to deliver to these people without compromising the food safety? Okay, you can maybe convert the whole establishment into a kitchen, but what is your delivery plan? And they did not have one. So my outcome of the audit was that this person doesn't have the resources to conduct this business. They might have the will to do it. They might be willing to apply themselves, but they need to first show me that they have the basic structure of the business. Then we can go forward and talk about food safety and other things. And lastly, method, SOPs, work instructions, which basically tie the whole system into one integrated, completed final thing. We need all of these 5 M's to work together harmoniously to build a system. We have had excellent success. As Richard pointed out, they have almost 0% infection rate, which is huge, and like it's a big achievement. You should always rave about this, Richard, all the time. And it's good. But the thing with food safety is, and the thing with food poisoning is, that the day you relax, the next day you have a bad news coming up. So I hope that we as a team, and especially Compass as one of the biggest players in the market, never relaxes and keeps striving for big success. And I know from my experience that they do that. They are one of the people who always talk about the future. I've had conversations with their supply chain and their QHC managers as well. So yeah, summarizing what I just said, 5M: men, machine, material, money, method. These all 5 are important to have a full system in place. That's it from my side. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Arsalan. I'm going to combine a couple of other points that we had listed out earlier and talk to you guys about number one, which is the most important in I think all of our beliefs, training. The importance of training of staff, the importance of using the right technologies, which is something that Arsalan has also touched upon, Nina has also touched upon, all of you have, in terms of using the right technologies. Number one, Arsalan spoke about automation, or technologies that reduce human error. But I also want to know about training technologies, especially from you, Nina, and Chef Richard, because you all are on ground most of the time. I also want to talk about two things, that a couple of questions that have come up regarding how to prevent, or rather how to test and measure whether your food is hygienic or not, whether your space or surfaces are hygienic or not. So we're talking basically about ATP testing, right? So can you all talk a little about these particular points, training and technologies? Chef Richard, let's start with you.
Yeah, again, I'm not paying Arsalan, by the way.
Uh,
Oh my God.
Disclaimer.
No, but I'm just narrating what I've experienced in my
Yeah,
some years of experience in UAE. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's no harm in saying the facts, because we are here in a panel doesn't mean that way, but it's a fact that you guys are striving for excellence, so which I appreciate, really do.
I've been with ADNH Compass for just over 6 years now, and I had jet black hair before I started. So it's when you're producing 3.2 million meals a week, and you're ultimately the one responsible. And you can imagine if we, and God forbid it never happens, but if we had a serious incident with food, my neck would certainly be on the block. So we spend a lot of time, a lot of manpower and lady power, and a lot of resources making sure that our food is extremely safe. So Arsalan wasn't exaggerating when he said it was tough. I've worked for some of the most strictest hygiene regulators in the world, one of them being US Public Health. And our HSC is mind-blowing how strict it is. Anyway, but I just wanted to let everyone know I wasn't paying Arsalan. I'm going to let Nina talk about the chemical side of it, because that's her level of expertise. But one thing I will talk about is training, because that's my passion. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I spend a lot of time on. We have a lot of programs within our company on training. I think it is so important that the staff, and especially working in hospitals, education as well as another area, that they have the knowledge to go in and do their job correctly. One thing we've developed in our company is something called Culinary Academy. When I did my apprenticeship and I went to college, and I did 4 years, and I had to go to college and learn all the fundamental basics of cooking and safety and allergens and all the rest of it. There are a lot of countries throughout Asia where that doesn't happen. So what we did is we developed a program where we condensed it, where we have a basic, intermediate and advanced level. They all get certified afterwards with my master's number on it. So it's legal anywhere in the world that they've passed those certain curriculum. The Culinary Academy is done by myself personally. So that means that every single person who comes through that academy is being taught by me, the basic fundamentals in hygiene, food safety, how to use a knife, allergens especially. And I said I would go back to allergens a little bit earlier, but can you imagine? And I lose sleep over it every night. If we gave someone who had an allergy and they had an allergic reaction and something went terribly wrong, this directly comes back to myself. So it's imperative, especially within our company, that all the people who are serving you and who are serving the guests understand what allergens are, understand what nutrition is, and this is what we train them. So none of our staff who work inside these hospitals or who work on site they're not allowed to be there unless they've passed this basic level of training and have been certified in it. So it's something that we're very passionate about, that we follow up on. And again, I'll go back to having a great support network. So we have an amazing support team behind that, who then follow up on daily basis, weekly basis. We have HSC managers who go in and do spot checks. We have operation managers who go in and do spot checks. We have chefs who go in and do spot checks. And this is not once a month. This is on a daily basis, continuously. We set our teams very high targets to maintain, usually over the 95% mark. For me in a hospital, it should always be 100%. But as a general rule throughout our company, it's about 95, 96%. Without without knowledge, without training, we would not be as successful as we are. We just wouldn't be, because the people on site just would not have that skill set or tools to be able to perform their job properly. So for me, training is paramount. We changed our whole structure within our company, that even in the old days, if you go back, 10 years ago, where and I say kids, 21, 22-year-olds would get off the plane from Mumbai, and within 6 hours would be working on site, no clue as to what they were doing. All that's gone. Now they have to spend 2-3 weeks in our CPU getting trained up properly, and they come in the back door, and what comes out the front door is a fully trained hygiene food specialist. The other thing that I feel is important as well, and this might be something a little bit closer to Nina's heart, because she was talking about dietitians and nutrition and all the rest of it. In hospitals, you have what's called a diet chef, and that diet chef is the one who's responsible for looking after the people with those liquid diets and those special diets, and has to make sure that they're all correct. One thing I'm extremely proud of is in our hospitals, I have multiple diet chefs, because they all understand the same knowledge. It's not just one person with that knowledge, it's multiple chefs who have that knowledge. So if I have one chef who can't come to work for whatever reason, I have another one who's ready to step in, because they've all gone through that same process. The other thing that I enjoy, and this is the big buzz I get out of training, is you see the people, how they react when they're getting that training. You see the joy they get out of it. You see when you're giving someone knowledge, how it makes them feel. That's an amazing feeling for me as a trainer, to see that in a human being. So as a company, it's paramount. It's one of our core principles is training. We have an amazing training department, an amazing HR department. I personally just went and done some training with our HR last week in Dubai. It was the best 2 days I've ever had. It was amazing. It was so much fun. And that's what training should be. It should be fun, but it should be knowledge at the same time, and making sure that the message they receive is the key principles of what they need to do their job safely and correctly. I'm going to give Nina a chance to talk about the chemical side of it, and training if you like, but that's pretty much me about training.
Right. I want to add something here, very important. When you will talk about the safety of the product to ensure it is safe or not, one thing has to be considered. We shall maintain a food safety management system, like HACCP-based food safety management system, number one. Number two, we have to control and we have to monitor it effectively with due diligence. If we have no due diligence, all these segments will be out of control. Management control, employees level control, or control measures which you are monitoring and which you have implemented as a control measure in your food safety management system. Because all of us know very well, previously we were relying on the end testing product. Since 2000 and onward in UAE, we are implementing HACCP-based food safety management system and other more advanced ISO 22000 or GFSI recognized food safety management system. It covers all parameters. So if you have your requirements, I strongly believe if you will implement them, requirements include regulatory requirements as well. If you will implement with due diligence, you can ensure that your quality or your product is safe. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mohammed, you're most welcome to visit any of our sites and hospitals, and I'm happy to walk through with you. Honestly, it's the reason why I have grey hair. It is so strict and so much, it's mind-blowing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Nina, let's come to you, talking about training and technology, both of them.
Great. This is a fascinating subject and very complex, very comprehensive, and very profound. Because when we talk about cleaning, it's not just chemicals, it's the whole integrated program put together. It's your chemicals, it's your tools, it's the equipment, it's the people, it's the application materials that you have, it's the monitoring. That's what you talked about, ATP, which I would want to touch upon. So, you know, when we go through all these intricacies, many of us are actually lost in technicalities. And somehow in our experience, whether it be training or whether it be consulting or whether it be audits, people have a problem in getting the basics right. You show a surface to two people from the same company and you ask them, is it clean? And somebody will say, yeah, it's fine. And somebody will say, maybe not. So that means there is no consistency in the way we actually see things. We're talking so much about food standardization. Do we also bring standardization and consistency in cleaning applications? That's a question mark. We've asked people, how long do you keep a chemical, which is like a sanitizer or a disinfectant, on a surface? And everybody has got different answers, even though they have been trained by the same person or they are supervised by the same supervisor. So that means what exists on the ground nowadays is not really what we think it to be. So I think in cleaning, we need to look at the basics. I think enough has been said about training so far. There is another topic that I want to touch upon. It's not just about chemicals. It's about working with someone who can guide you based on your needs and based on the risk factors which are involved as far as your catering is concerned. Many a time we have supervisors, we have specialists, they call themselves SHE or, HNS, health and safety. And we have to be reminded that health and safety is not the same as food safety, though all of them are branded under a common umbrella of health and safety. Food safety is a specialized science, and we need to teach people, we need to bring people together and help them to understand what clean is really about. So if I summarize clean, we are looking at soils, we're looking at grease. Remember those sticky grease materials on the wall, if they are not removed on time, will attract cockroaches. It's like a tiramisu for the cockroaches. They love the taste and the smell of the grease.
Yeah, absolutely,
Grease,
absolutely.
Yes, grease and food materials are also allergens. One of the mistaken assumptions with people is cleaning and disinfection for allergens. Disinfection is for infection control. It's for microorganisms. It's not really for food materials. So cleaning is something which is often underestimated. Under-equipment areas sometimes are not cleaned. So when we look at a cleaning program, we first need to understand what is the available resources for people to clean correctly and remove soils. And everybody should be able to know what to look, how to look, and where to look. So once you have established your cleaning with good quality chemicals, good quality detergents, grease cutters, etc., you can go for the next requirement, which is disinfection. So these are the two most critical factors in a food industry and a catering, apart from some other chemicals that you might also use, like, for example, descalers or delimers or grease cutters, etc. So when we talk about disinfection, this has been gaining a lot of momentum, especially in the COVID times, and we constantly keep reminding people COVID is a virus that is actually most simpler to kill than norovirus, which causes food infections and is difficult to kill on a microbiological hierarchical scale. So if we have a good food safety program, we can actually end up counteracting many microorganisms. We don't need to be a hospital, because when we talk about sterilization, it's different. It goes on a high level disinfection. What we are looking at in the food industry, in a catering sector, is low level to intermediate level disinfection. So I think it's important for us to get our basics right before we go on to understand further. So one of the issues that we have in disinfection is the lack of understanding or the awareness, especially when it comes to how to apply disinfectants, whether it's with the application of spray guns or whether it's with the application of disinfection. So all this is important, or whether it's the use of hot water systems like dishwashers, for the disinfection of surfaces. Of course, when it comes to hot water disinfection, it helps to rule out many manual errors, and we expect it at least to be around 82 degrees Celsius minimum. That is the international benchmark that many of us would be using. So let's look at training. It's very important that anybody who touches chemicals always has to be trained, no matter how simple the application is. So disinfection concentration, I spoke earlier about automated dosing. There is a simple point I would like to make, which is overlooked. Many of us use spray guns, those spray bottles. And if we have to have a good coverage of application of chemical for the surface, the nozzle size adjustment is very important, because spray guns or spray bottles are used, very, very widely in a cleaning sector. So if you just spray, and if you cover up 60% of the area, your surface will not be disinfected. It's also very important for us to emphasize the contact time. So if you use the best chemical in the world, and if you don't give it the right contact time for the disinfection, your disinfection will never be successful. The third critical factor is how much of soil is present on the surface before you start disinfecting, because the presence of soil will interfere. So that's the reason I go back to cleaning, because more than 95% of your dirt, soil, and a whole lot of microorganisms can actually be taken away by cleaning. We sometimes underestimate the importance of cleaning. So let's look at these disinfection technologies. And we know that chefs in the kitchen, I'm sure, Richard, you will agree with me, y'all are very busy. Y'all don't have time, for chemicals to sit on the surface for 5 minutes to perform the job of killing the microorganisms. So it's important that we understand new technologies that are coming in with reduced contact times, which facilitate application and make operations much more feasible. One of the new technology that has hit the market is what we call as AHP, accelerated hydrogen peroxide. I don't know how many of you on this group are familiar with it. Accelerated hydrogen peroxide. If you see peroxides, they're very good oxidizing agents. They kill microorganisms. Unfortunately, they're very unstable. So that's the reason HP technology uses formulations which are made stable, by the application of more chemicals or incorporation of more chemicals, what we call as formulations. And some formulations also come with detergency. So that means you can clean and disinfect at the same time with a contact time that is reduced a whole lot. Maybe to be more specific, anywhere from 15 seconds to 30 seconds. How simple could it get? This is what we are looking at. We are looking at identifying new technologies. We are looking at making life simpler for the people who clean. Because in our experience, cleaning is one of the weakest areas which contributes to food contamination. It is not easy, but it is possible. It requires a lot of supervision. It requires commitment from everybody. And talking about the monitoring part, the monitoring is important, that we don't get into a system where monitoring and supervision, kind of coincide. It's important that monitoring remains monitoring, supervision remains supervision. Sometimes we have a lot of tick box activities, when people try to fill up records. So it's important that supervisors always monitor, the field on the ground. And looking at ATP, since Shanti has specifically mentioned it, ATP is a simple swab. It gives you rapid results. It's not for COVID-19, because that's another thought that goes on in the minds. It's not even for bacteria. It is for adenosine triphosphate, which is an energy-based molecule in all organic matter. So ATP is a simple test for us to determine whether a surface has been effectively cleaned or not. So it could be possible that a surface has got some contamination with deadly microorganisms, which in small numbers could potentially make people sick. But at the same time, it could possibly pass the ATP test. So we should not link ATP results, if they pass, with a success of disinfection. Rather, we would classify it as a cleaning success. So it depends on how many residual soils would be available on the surface. So that's about ATP. If you want to do COVID testing or something, there are other methods like PCR, which are available nowadays. So that's about cleaning. So remember, cleaning, disinfection, if you put together both these processes, it is sanitizing. It's the choice of cleaning that you have. We also need to look at the order of cleaning. So if you are going to disinfect a work surface, which is critical, it's important that you start with cleaning from the top to the bottom and you go back to disinfecting the surface. Many a time, many of them have told us that, how do we combat COVID-19? Because this is a new issue that has cropped up. And we tell them, if you look at your cleaning protocol in the food areas, you will not only be able to combat the normal microorganisms, but even the more easier one to kill, which is great news, by the way, COVID-19. There's so much of impetus and focus right now on hand contact surfaces. I'm sure if some of you have gone through a training program which is structured, hand contact surfaces are very much like anything that comes in contact with food, and both of them need to be cleaned and disinfected. But let's go back before the pandemic. There was so much of very little focus rather on cleaning hand contact surfaces. And this is not just with food handlers or cleaners, it's also with supervisors and managers. So the focus on hand contact surfaces has come very recently because of the pandemic. So I would be right in saying that COVID-19 was a very good teacher to the world.
Thank you so much.
The cost does not justify it though. Yeah, so I think this is what we have, Shanti, to put it in a nutshell.
Very, very well said. Lots of food for thought. I'm all about the puns today. Arsalan, so we're pretty much out of time. We've extended our time, but I'm going to end this with what Arsalan has to say about training and chemicals, and then we're just going to end the session because we're already extended. Yeah.
Thank you, Shanti. So basically, yeah, Nina has covered all the chemical aspects and technicalities of this, and I totally agree with all of what she said, and Richard as well about the training. I will go a little bit towards the start of the whole journey. We need to include hygiene and hygiene concepts in the designing of the facility, basically. That's the real deal which we need to make with the people. Because no matter how good you are with the chemicals, no matter how competent you are with training the people, and how good you are with executing the task, if the design is faulty, then there is certain limitation that will be always there, and you cannot overcome that limitation just by simply training people or by applying chemicals. I am working currently with one of the contractors which is building a factory. And on a daily basis, we have negotiations, we have discussions on different elements of design with regards to good hygiene design, basically. It includes hard to reach surfaces. Even if you all must have seen electrical boxes which are there in the food areas. Should they be there in the food areas? How would you clean electrical box, basically? How would you ensure hygiene inside and around the box? Because there is insulation around the electrical box, which is a very good housing for pests, cockroaches, and other pests. So these kind of hygiene designs should be considered at the start of the audit of the facility, or at the start of building a facility. Then we go to the next level, which is the linear workflow, which will segregate our clean and dirty processes, and so on and so forth. Then we establish the systems of training people and the chemicals. Unfortunately, and this is something which I don't like, but I agree with Nina. Cleaning is one of the most underrated thing in the whole food industry. There is a mindset with people that if you don't know anything, okay, and I know you are my friend, okay, come and join my cleaning department. You can do cleaning, at least you can do something rather than nothing. So this mindset needs to change. If we hire people without competence, it will be difficult for trainers like Nina, or myself, Richard, even Mr. Mohammed, to implement systems, because there is a limit to the understanding of a person which comes with poor background of understanding science, and it's or at least basics of cleaning. It's difficult. No matter how much you try to educate people, yes, eventually you will reach there, but it will take too much resources, too much time, and till the time you reach that level of training and competence and understanding, through the whole amount of time, your food is still unsafe, basically. It is subject to contamination, it is subject to chemical contamination. We have not even touched about chemical contamination. We are focused more on microbiological topic today, but think about if a cleaning person is not trained and they have wrongly used a chemical on a wrong surface, or maybe a poor concentration, then we are risking chemical contamination of food and food areas, which is going to have long-term effects. Chemicals do not have effect now. Microorganism can show you effect in 5 days or 3 days, but chemicals can have long-term effects, and we will not be able to even detect from where the contamination happened. So yes, it's a wide topic. I think only for cleaning and cleaning methods and do's and don'ts in the cleaning system, we should have a separate panel discussion for this. It's a huge topic. But I would leave it that we need to focus more on design. Hygiene by design should be our focus, so that after that, when we want to implement systems which Nina and Richard are talking about, or which Mr. Mohammed will love to put in the regulatory requirement, it becomes easy for us. Because if the design is wrong, then what you're going to start with? For example, as simple as that a catering company in the food area needs to have coved corners, rounded corners, so that cleaning becomes easy. That's a very simple requirement, which is there. But many catering companies don't have that. So those corners becomes very hard to clean, and no matter how trained your people are, it will be always difficult for them to clean those corners. So this is a reality which we need to encounter. So hygiene by design is my take out from this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arsalan. Very insightful topic. I think we've just touched the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this topic, but we'll definitely explore more in future events or through the magazine. I just want to thank all of you for your insights, for your participation, for your passion with which you all spoke. It was a great pleasure talking to all of you and having you on board. And I'm sure our audience has also got a lot of insights from this. So thank you very much. Have a very
Most
good
welcome.
day. Yeah, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Most welcome. Thank you.
Everybody. Thank you, Shanti.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Okay.